Well, there we go.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the 4040 Minute, the podcast featuring a guy who knows a heck of a lot about the game and someone else. I am that someone else. My name is David Bronfman. I'm your interim co-host.
And my name is Greg Howard. And we got a little surprise for you guys today. We've been trying to get a hold of him for a good chunk of time, and we did once. And today's going to be that other day when it's going to be once. So let's hear from Jeff over in China.
There he is. He's looking like you put
So
on a
we're
little
live
bit of weight
now?
there, Jeff.
Can't see me anymore. So
Landscape.
let's see. How do I begin? We're sucking proverbial balls right now. We can't seem to pitch to save our lives. Aaron Sanchez, in and out. Thank God for the guy we picked up from Kansas City, Gaviglio. He's doing pretty good. I'm a little worried when we have our starting catcher who's hitting 156, starting at shortstop and left field, and God only knows where else they're going to place him on the field. No natural shortstop. If Russell Martin is your natural shortstop, you've got problems. So now we've got to talk about what happens going forward. Donaldson, not hitting so much. Smoke is all right. Kendrys Morales, it's a horror show. It's really worse than I thought it was actually going to be. Give a motorcycle, many motorcycles. But all I have to say is, it looks like it's going to be coming down to a seller's market, and we're going to have to start selling out some of our assets. We could have sold off Osuna, but of course, we won't see him again for probably the rest of the year. Donaldson is probably the biggest one, especially when you got Vladdy Jr. hitting like 435 down in AA. I mean, he still needs to work on his fielding, but maybe somebody you want to bring up. They brought up Sean Reed Foley. They're moving up Jordan Romano. It sounds like they're prepping for some kind of fire sale. And if Estrada doesn't come through, all we got right now is Jay Happ. Thank God for Jay Happ, who's pitching like a bona fide ace. We beat the Phillies 2-3, which is cool, especially since they're actually in first place. But other than that, it's been a horror show. Boston and New York are going to run away with this whole thing, from what I can see. Mookie Betts is another world.
All right, so I think one day we're actually going to get this right. Jeff, I'm really, really sorry if we interrupted you, but we couldn't hear you at all, and we're not sure if our audience could hear you at all either. But boy, oh boy, once again, thanks for joining us from China. One day, I am certain that we will actually figure out the technology behind this podcast. At any rate, folks, welcome to the 4040 Men, and we already did those intros. So today's episode is
a questionable slide.
And as we start, I just want to there's one thing I have to do to you, Greg, is I have to apologize. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I broke your Kevin Pilar commemorative figurine. I was just gesticulating wildly, as I tend to do, and I knocked it off the table. This was right after a broadcast, and I broke it. And I took it home so that I could fix it. And I procrastinated, as I normally do. But I finally got my act together, and I brought it back in. And the thing is, it's been a while, so I decided I'm not just going to fix it, but I think I have actually made some improvements. Right. So if you could do me a favor and switch to the close-up. I've re-brought in the Kevin Pilar figurine. So and I think I've made some decent improvements to it. So
nailed it.
Yeah, no. I mean, well, it broke a few things, but as you can see, this is Kevin Pillar version 2.0, and I think he's a better player now because, as you can see, we've replaced his arm with a foot.
Excellent. Yeah.
Which will now allow him to leap in the air as he does, and he doesn't have to worry about injuring himself because he can land on his foot. And
that's like a triple jump. He can actually like sort of kick off on with his arm.
It's perfect. Now, some people may say, well, Dave, that's kind of ridiculous. How is he going to catch? But I thought of that, and as you can see, his glove is now just positioned right under his chin. So he's got that there, and it's ready to go. And the thing is, I knocked it off the table, and I don't know if it was because of that, but his head was kind of bobbling a little bit. So I stuffed some Q-tips in the back. It's fixed
to prevent the bobble.
To prevent the bobble, because that's I consider that a liability. And there were a lot of other leftover pieces. I was a little sort of confused as to where they go, but I think most of them went on his hat. So I put him back on his head. He sort of was missing a little bit of the visor on his hat, but that was blocking out the sun anyway. So I figured he didn't need it anymore. Anyhow, there is the Kevin Pillar 2.0. He is missing a leg. I don't really have an excuse for that, but I think that all told, he's going to be a better player. So here you go. Thanks, Greg. And sorry about that. I'm just going to put it back into the collection.
Put him in the bunch.
Yeah.
If we were allowed to show things from Star Wars, we could have showed the Empire Strikes Back, how Chewie puts back C-3PO, because it's pretty much exactly it. Puts a leg on an arm, has one leg missing.
I still maintain that this is an improvement over the original Kevin Pillar.
Yeah.
Pillar.
Well, let's talk about this week in the Jays. Kind of shit again.
Yeah. A questionable slide.
Well, okay, so that we'll touch upon because last night, Anthony Rizzo from the Chicago Cubs, had a slide into home plate, literally slid on the inside of the base path, took out a catcher while he was making the throw to first. They took that. They made a ruling a couple of years ago because of Chase Utley, and it's now essentially called the Chase Utley rule.
Yeah.
Because for years, guys at second base were getting sort of hammered because someone would go on a high slide or a slide on the side and try and take out, the double play option. Wilmer Flores during the National League Championship Series got taken out by Chase Utley, hence the rule change.
Yeah.
And that really the Dodgers were going to win, but that really took out someone like of vast importance to the Mets.
Right.
And then one of the first implementations of it the very next season was Jose Batista sliding into second to sort of break up a play, and boom, happens to be with Rougned Odor, and Rougned tries to throw at his head, and hence the whole melee, at second base where Rougned, punched him. I've got no problem with the punch because you're gonna fight.
Yeah, that was the
yeah.
And like we said in a previous podcast, Batista does really have a punchable face.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But that was the first implementation of it. But it's now sort of coming back. Like the slide is coming back.
Well, this is a funny little thing, and if you want to continue this at this point in time, this was actually the subject that I studied this week as part of our ongoing series. What did Dave learn this week? Which we can go into right now because we're simply on the topic, or we can start off talking about the Jays and really what happened this week.
We can touch upon that in a bit.
Okay, so
what did Dave learn this week?
So yeah, I guess this is part of the topic of what did Dave learn this week, and it's the Chase Utley rule. Now, Greg sort of was talking about a little bit of the rundown. So here's a little bit where I like to talk about what I learned, and it's stuff that you probably already know about. But I'm going to talk about it anyway. So there are really two things that we're talking about here when we are discussing questionable slides or slides that that are done with a certain amount of aggression. One is it being done to break up a double play, or two, is it something that's happening at home and someone is simply just trying to completely careen into the catcher, maybe to get the catcher to drop the ball or something like that. Now, there are new rules, but it is important to note that although human beings are getting larger and faster, this is something that's been going on in baseball since the game's been invented. And I was digging up some really, really old accounts of players taking out defensive players. And there's an account of like this 1886 game, Adrian Cap Anson, who was...
there's a nickname you don't really hear much more.
Cap. It's going to come back as a marvel, but who was very svelte, 210 pounds, who leapt into the air 10 feet away from home plate and absolutely schlockered the 150-pound catcher, George Myers, who somehow held on to the ball. But it's interesting because back then the press were not kind to these sorts of events. And these days, the press are like, no, this is how the game should be played, and we're upset at these new rule implementations. Now, of course, you've got Buster Posey's injury, where Scott Cousins, who went into him like a freight train, broke his leg and tore some ligaments and had a season-ending surgery. Now, this led to the Buster Posey rule.
Yes.
Which was implemented about 2014. I could read you the rule. I have the rule book, but it basically translates to "don't be a dick." But it's also interesting to note that the rate of injuries at home plate, these rules are being implemented to stop these sort of injuries and career-ending injuries.
Yeah.
But the injuries there aren't a lot of them. There's like 7 injuries per like 1,000 tagouts.
But it's a defenseless play. That's where it comes in, because I mean, this is the only time in baseball where there is an ounce of contact.
Right.
And baseball is theoretically, it's a lot safer than a lot of sports, but then you also have something that's going 100 miles an hour coming at you and then coming right back at you.
No,
so that's a bit of a difference as well.
How dare these professional athletes put their life and limb on the line? But we look at the injuries that you get in football. In baseball, when this Harvard study that was looking at injuries only found 2 concussions over 9 years of play with tags at home plate.
Yeah.
Now, there are, of course, so with the Buster Posey rule, there are people that are against this rule, especially like very vocal people that are against the rule. Ray Fosse, who was very famously turned into hamburger by
Pete Rose.
Pete Rose
in an All-Star game as well, not even in a real game. Like this is when the All-Star games, All-Star games still don't mean anything, but Pete Rose, aka Charlie Hustle, just creamed him.
Now, exactly,
destroyed that guy's career.
People say that he was never the same after that. So, and this stuff is coming into play. That came into play last year in the NLCS Game 1, Cubs Dodgers, when Wilson Contreras stepped in front of Charlie Culberson at home. Charlie was subsequently declared safe, but. So that is the home plate issue. That is like that's the Buster Posey stuff. And then you get into what we're talking about now.
Chase Utley.
Chase Utley.
Second base. Yeah.
Matt McDonald's favorite baseball player. All you Always Sunny in Philadelphia fans. You know what I'm talking about.
Chase Utley, because he wanted to go have a catch.
I like his hair. Yeah. The Silver Fox. Okay. Chase Utley. Again, history shows that these things have been going on for an incredibly long period of time. You have, and what I like is a story that I found from 1890, when New York second baseman Arthur Whitney, who had enough of what was the style at the time, which was you didn't slide, you just ran, and just straight up, if you were trying to stop a double play, you were waving your arms while running, like taking the largest target you possibly could, and then just essentially just walloped right into the second baseman. There was you didn't have to slide. There was no rule involving that.
And there's that's the thing, is like, I don't understand why people actually don't do that now, like make a big target.
There's a rule. As there is, but you have in this case where so Arthur Whitney just had absolutely enough of this, decided to stop Joel Mulvey, who was doing one of these runs by throwing the ball at his face from 5 feet away. The news reports of the time described it. He fell like a beef hit with a mallet. Then as the years go on, you get Hal McRae, who in the 70s, who people say was like the most aggressive base runner.
He was a pretty aggressive manager too. He actually tossed some phones at people in an interview once.
Well, I think this fella needed a little bit of anger management, and for a time, his anger management was really happening on the field because he was known for barreling through players using a flying rolling block. Which, if you'll allow me to use Kevin Pillar, he would essentially he'd be running along, and then he would like fly through the air. Oh, hey, look, fly through the air like that, and then rotate into some poor second baseman who's standing basically right there and hit him like that, and bam, and then roll them all out. And this was his thing, and that led to the Hal McRae rule, which requires runners to slide if they are intending to break up a double play at second. And then we get into Chase Utley, the rule named after him, who took out Ruben.
So you have to slide within the realm of the bag as opposed to sliding.
And this is the forced play slide rule, the Chase Utley rule, which goes by the much sexier name of Rule 6.01J in the Major League rule book.
J kind of rhymes with Chase J.
And this eliminated neighborhood play, which is something I also had to learn about, which is the umps basically saying, well, you looked safe, and nobody really cared because they were just trying to like stop people from becoming injured. But now you're like you said, Chase is still up to his old tricks.
Yeah, and well, I mean, if you want to go back into history as well, there was a pretty famous one with an old Blue Jay catcher, Buck Martinez,
right,
who got creamed twice at home plate on the same play, broke his leg the first play, got kind of pissed, threw the ball to third to try and get a force. The ball all of a sudden went across and then came back as someone else was. And he got smoked in the face and in the leg. He had to get taken off in a stretcher. Got the guy out though.
So he gets knocked out. He got knocked down. He's like, what's going on? Hey, anybody want to go out for chicken soup? What's up? Bam! And got hit again. That's great. It's worth it to note that Chase Utley has been now hit by at least 200 pitches by major league pitchers, and you wonder why.
So we've got someone calling in. Let's see if we can hear him this time.
This will be a test. We are flying by wire here. So,
are you able to hear?
I can hear myself.
All right, Dave. It looks like we're going to come over to you if you're still there.
All right, we have a caller. Everybody's looking super fat today.
Yeah. Here's my thing. If you're gonna call in, if you're gonna use your phone, landscape. Landscape. There we go. All right.
Just as fat.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave. But we're all aware of the truth.
Can you? All right, Dave. You got a question?
Oh, I can't.
Can you hear?
I can't hear him.
Hold on. We can't hear Dave.
Dave, hold up a sign.
Hold on a second.
I can hear myself.
Hold on a sec. Let's see if we can get this.
It looks like we're gonna come over. Yep.
All right, no. Davey. How about now?
Okay. We're being reduced to doing this phone call using ALS. Dave, how's your sign language? All right. Because now we have to use hand signals, I'm going to say, so Dave, let's see. I've got a question for you. Let's see. Should we bring up Vlad Jr.? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs down.
Okay. All right. I feel like we're in The Martian right now. Okay. Josh Donaldson's trade value has dropped quite a bit because of the injuries. Do you think we can get rid of him easily? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs down. All right.
This is riveting podcast material, Greg.
And the audio portion of this is going to be so good as well. All right. Okay. So we'll give you a little question as well. Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, Vladdy Jr., and Casey Clemens. In 2 years, are they all going to be up? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up. All right, that's a big one. So that means we're going to be losing Tulo, Josh Donaldson, Devin Travis more than likely.
Yeah.
But then in 2 years, our stable of young guns are all going to be ready to go.
That's perfect. Well, folks, our fine silent friend here, Dave Steen, is a longtime friend of the show, so we're glad to see him call in for the first time, and we promise you that one day we'll actually be able to hear you talk.
Davey,
thanks for calling in. Have a good one. Stay safe, Dave. All right.
I couldn't hear.
We're batting 1,000 here.
Oh yeah, I know.
As far as quality material. You wanted to talk a little bit about Russell Martin.
Yes. And so here's the trick, right? Russell Martin, great catcher, phenomenal catcher.
Yeah.
One of the best to call the game, pretty much, in the biz right now. He's not playing a lot of catcher.
Yeah.
Lately. He's not hitting well.
Right.
He's hitting just over $160 at this point.
It's on the interstate.
Yes, he's on the interstate. He was put in at left field because John Gibbons wanted to bring in another left bat on that side instead of Curtis Granderson.
Yeah.
When you're hitting like shit, do you bring in the guy that's hitting like shit just to play left field, a position he hasn't played? Now, he's also the first person in 90 years to actually start 3 specific positions: a catcher, left field, and shortstop. First person in the American League in 90 years to do. He's also started at 6 positions in his career: shortstop, third, second, catcher, and left field, and right field, I should say now.
2 different starts
in a week. Week. He actually came up as a third baseman, was converted by the Dodgers into a catcher. But the thing is like, do you play him now just for the sake of saving the knees? Because one of the best things that he actually does was call a game and monitor a pitcher.
All right, so he's not hitting particularly well.
No.
He's 35 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm also sort of amazed because he has this was his left field debut, and
in one of the hardest left fields to play.
And that was my question. Yeah. Is that he's in Boston, and Gibbons said something along the lines of, well, that he had less field to play in, so it'd be good for him.
It's less field, but then there's a wall that really careens balls off, and what could have been like coming down and sort of hitting the warning track at some point in time, now this is going to be hitting way the hell up and bouncing back into center field.
And didn't that really screw him up once?
Screw him up a couple of times, but I mean, for his first little foray into it, he actually didn't do bad.
Well, I think it's kind of great personally that you got this 35-year-old who this week started at shortstop. And I guess Jose Reyes is the only other player in history to be that age to start at shortstop.
Yeah.
And he had like that really good one play at shortstop where he caught the ball and then threw the ball.
Yeah. Which sounds, you broke it down exactly exactly how it was.
He did say that shortstop was like something that he always wanted to do. Like
he grew up playing at shortstop, and then in the minor leagues was a third baseman. Started his career as a third baseman, and the Dodgers converted him to a catcher. And he's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame because he's a phenomenal catcher, and he's a local boy too.
Something about he's got like the most experience behind the plate than like pretty much anyone.
Remember Tara Paulson that used to work with us?
Yes.
She used to babysit him. Yeah, I know. It's an odd.
Well, I have to credit Russell Martin's success to our good friend Tara Paulson, friend of the show.
Mm-hmm.
This led me down a path when we were talking about Russell Martin about ultimate for utility players, right? And
Andrew Romine. Is that where you're gonna go with?
Oh, I do. Yes, yeah. I have him. I have so this is that really weird thing that there's been seven players in Major League Baseball history who played all 9 defensive positions, 5 of whom, Andrew Romaine being one, played all 9 positions in the same game.
There's been other players that have filled in other spots, and that's not a thing, and played multiple positions, but actually starting as a starter at that position. But Andrew Romine doing, he was the last one to do it, and that
Yep.
was last year, 2 years ago.
I was last year.
Last year, yeah, for Detroit. Detroit was already long out of the running for anything, and so they decided, all right, cool, let's give this a whirl. But that's the thing. Is like many other people have come in and filled in other spots, but starting at a specific position means that that's the manager's option,
Right,
to do that, right? But yeah, doing it in the same game, that's tough.
to play all of them. So this is a manager saying this game has absolutely no meaning to us.
Yeah.
It's a meaningless game. Look at the fans. That guy's falling asleep. This one is throwing popcorn at his daughter. I want to do something just to make everybody happy.
Get excited.
To get excited. That's a kind of a sad state.
Well, Russell says that he's got 4 pitches as well.
Yeah.
He's got a changeup, a curve, a slider, and a fastball.
And
But he
we haven't seen him.
He doesn't practice the pitches much because he doesn't want to wear out his arm. So, but I mean, I get by the way this week has gone, and if it goes, a couple more weeks like that, you're going to see Russell Martin getting a shot at the mound.
Russell Martin, Renaissance man.
Yeah, $20 million utility player.
Wow. That's there was also Scott Sheldon and Shane Halter, who both did the in I guess 2000 who did the 9 positions in one game, did them both in the same year, both like close to the end of the season. There are stories like Scott Sheldon, he's doing the pitching.
Yeah.
He's pitching and like Randy Knorr shakes his head like she's shaking off a sign. They didn't have any signs. There were no signs. There was barely a pitch. No pitch. He pitched like one guy. Pitched to one guy, and then they're like, "Yeah, woo!" It did all the positions. So this deal of playing all 9 positions in a single game doesn't have a name yet. So I figured since we're trying to make a name for ourselves, we need to start coining some of these terms. I'm not saying call it the 40-40, but because that's already taken.
Mm-hmm.
So just I'm gonna call it the if you played all 9 defensive positions in a single game, I'm calling it the Jenna Jameson. and you can Google it, but I suggest you go on incognito mode before you do.
You must go to the mound twice, though.
Well, yeah. There's definitely more than one. Oh, man visit. Couldn't we both use a man visit right now? Not at the same time. Yeah. So that's some pretty cool stuff. So what else is going on?
I'm gonna give us a little injury update.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna just be a fan for a second, and this is probably one of the reasons why we've been sucking for a little bit. We've had a lot of good players, and not necessarily specifically amazing at what they do, but just good role players that are on the bench because of an injury right now. We're going to be getting a lot of them back. Obviously, Osuna is still going to be on administrative leave, and that's going to just kind of keep on going until that whole court case is. Donaldson just went back on the DL. That's going to be day-to-day with calf tightness, so we don't know what's going on. But a bunch of the guys that have actually been on for quite some time, Diaz began a rehab assignment, so that means he's probably going to be up in about 3 days. Randall Grichuk, who's actually at the end of his rehab assignment, he's coming up on the 1st. Steve Pearce began hitting progression, so that means that he's going to start seeing major league style pitches, and Stroman started throwing again. Now, here's where it gets good.
Okay.
Troy Tulowitzki started running on flat ground. That's a big sign.
What kind of ground was he running on?
He wasn't, because he had an operation on both of his heels because of bone spurs. So, I mean, he had that problem fixed, whereas Donald Trump still used to get out of any kind of war. But yes, began running on flat ground. So that's a big sign.
The heelless wonder. He's doing okay. So, and then past that, I suppose they start him running on undulating ground, on flat ground,
possibly grass that has that hasn't been manicured for major league purposes, like any kind of field you look on in the park system.
And he's got to start running on gravel, and then he has to start running on hot coals,
and then a treadmill going up with spikes at the bottom.
Eventually, he has to run through a field of medium cooked ham just to see. how his balance is, and what a delicious meal. So that's so we're going to get back now. We're like ranked 20th in the power rank.
Oh yes, yeah. I take the power rankings with a grain of salt because it's like by week,
Yeah.
and you're also doing all the teams, right? So, but out of 30, yes, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
We are still, in contention for a wild card. We're dropping a little bit. We're in 4th in the American League East, 9th in the American League in general. We're going to get that back up, but we've got another 2 against Boston, which is which will help us gain some ground. We've got 3 against Detroit, which thankfully they're worse than us, so that's a good sign. And then we come home for a 3-game stint with the Yankees and with Baltimore. So our record against the American League East is horrible right now. We've actually, and Baltimore's the only team that's worse than us. So this is going to be a big test of the metal at this point in time. I have faith that we're actually going to win out of against Detroit, Baltimore, and the Yankees.
Yeah.
There's 9 games. We're going to win 6 of those.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Greg Howard says that the Blue Jays just might win some games against some of the worst teams in the league.
Totally. I want to catch you guys up on something. I'm going to show you this just one more time.
Duck, 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 duck. What did Dave learn this week?
And here's the best part. The expiration date. The expiration date. That sort of went by the wayside at first, and just actually realized that. So.
Look, I learned a lot this week, and the fact that the A535 had already expired just does not help the fact that I now have pain-free gums. It seemed to do the trick. Although my breath does smell. Don't ask me how I know
the year Roy Halladay pitched a perfect game for the Phillies, plus Jose Bautista's age and minus Roberto Alomar's retired jersey number. So that should give you an answer. And if you text us, Facebook, come on the show, Twitter, you'll win some stuff from Henderson. So.
That's fantastic. I love these people.
Yeah.
Henderson. It's what's in your fridge. Other baseball news, I guess. We had the Phillies acquired amphibious switch pitcher. The switch pitcher. He's amphibious pitcher. Pat Vendette.
I mean, ambidextrous.
Oh, yes.
It's like he's on land and he's on water.
He's a switch pitcher, and
yes.
and
we had him.
And another what
we had him 2 years ago. Yeah.
He's another person for whom a rule has been named.
Yes.
Because now you can't spend the entire day, and when you're pitching against a switch hitter, you can't spend the entire day switching back and forth when you switch one and the hitter. You can only the pitcher has to start it. This was made for Pat. This was the rule made for him. Mm-hmm. Is that the pitcher has to indicate first
where he's going to pitch, like what side he's going to pitch,
and then the batter gets to choose, and then both the pitcher and the batter are allowed after one pitch has been thrown. Both the pitcher and the batter are allowed one more time to switch position.
Yes. And
it's up to them to do it. And I can't wait for this to happen. I really hope it
happened. It happened. There was an incident a couple of years ago where there was a switch hitter and a switch batter, and both of them just spent the time like arguing, and then the ump just came in and went, "Okay, I don't care. Pick, and then respond."
I think that actually might have been Vendette, if that's
it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Like in the minors or something.
Yeah, and then they just sort of it was a major league. Yeah, so and he literally had to do one of these. I'm like, okay, I'm going with the right.
Yeah,
and then the batter adjusted, and the ump was like, "This is ridiculous. Stop." But give you a little help with that trivia question. This day in baseball, we got some actually pretty good stuff. In 1990, Ricky Henderson breaks Ty Cobb's AL stolen base record with 892. He eventually got 1,406. That's some of those with the Jays. In 2003, Roger Clemens became the third pitcher to have 110 plus strikeout games.
That's a lot.
Nolan Ryan and Randy Johnson.
Yeah.
Big unit. Roy Halladay, 2010. Pitches perfect game for the Phillies today.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And so there's if you paid attention to that, there's part of the answer. But
We're
otherwise,
taking hints this week.
yeah.
Otherwise, we're gonna drink your. Wait.
Yeah.
Are they getting beer?
No, they're getting shirts and
they're getting
hats and
lots of great stuff, legal
getting-
stuff,
You're getting legal stuff.
things
yeah,
that we can legally give you.
We get the beer, so
So, what do you think, Greg? Do you think we put in some decent minutes?
I think we did.
Yeah, I feel like we sent out the message.
Totally.
Not everybody heard everything, but I think that's okay.
Yeah.
They weren't.
Well,
really
they
listening.
probably did. We just couldn't hear it. So.
Yeah.
And I've probably just cut people off halfway through.
Well, hopefully you did hear. I mean, we weren't paying attention. I hope somebody was. But yeah, well, that seems like a great week to me. So we're going to see you all next week. And until then, my name's David Bronfman.
And I'm Greg.
And until then, stay safe.
And